All right, we've got some major news dropping in the Nancy Guthrie investigation. So listen up. And seriously, hit that notification bell. Because what the FBI just announced about their tip line isn't a sign this case is going cold. It's a sign they're completely changing the game. And when the feds switch up their strategy this publicly, you better believe it's a calculated move with a very, very specific person in their sights. This means something huge is happening. Something the average person following this case has totally missed. On March 5th, a Fox News reporter, Matt Finn, posted on X exactly what the FBI told him. He wrote, "The FBI tells me tips have tapered in the Nancy Guthrie investigation, and that they're still begging anyone with actual leads to call in. But that one word tapered had people losing their minds." That single sentence sent an absolute shockwave through the entire true crime community. For so many people, it sounded like the beginning of the end, like the case was running out of steam, that the tips dried up because everyone just gave up. But here's the thing, all those armchair detectives are getting completely wrong. They have no idea what the FBI is actually pulling off right now. They can't tell the difference between a tip drought and a tip purge. They don't get why the FBI's new, hyper-focused appeal, combined with Savannah Guthrie's absolute masterclass of an Instagram campaign, the $1.2 million cash reward, and that bombshell Google data that proves someone was watching Nancy's home for 9 months before she vanished, doesn't signal the end of this investigation. It signals the exact moment everything could break wide open. Tonight, we're digging into all of it. Let's kick things off with a number, because this one number tells you everything you need to know about where this case has been and why the FBI's new move is so critical. 40,000. That's how many calls and tips completely buried the Puma County Sheriff's Department and the FBI tip line in the first few weeks after Nancy disappeared. Some weeks, they were getting 4,000 calls in a single 24-hour stretch, especially after that chilling doorbell footage of the masked suspect dropped on February 10th. Now, you need to understand what getting 40,000 tips actually looks like in the real world. Every single one of those calls has to be answered by a human being, who has to listen, type down the info, slap a label on it, flag anything that sounds even remotely useful, shoot it over to the right team of detectives, and then cross-reference it with all the actual evidence. Every last tip, no matter how wacky, has to be checked out. That's not just some simple office task. For one, it's a massive operational nightmare that devours thousands of hours of investigators' time. CNN's senior law enforcement analyst, Josh Campbell, nailed this, with a point so sharp it completely reframes the whole conversation about the tip line. He said, "Time is everything in a kidnapping case, and burying your agents under a mountain of bogus leads is a guaranteed way to slow them down while they're just trying to sort fact from fantasy. A mountain of bogus leads, slowing them down. This isn't just some fringe theory. This is, like Investigation 101, you have to manage your resources. When you get 40,000 tips, the brutal truth is that most of them come from kind people who have theories and just want to help. People who watch the footage and convince themselves they recognize the guy's eyebrows, or his mustache, or the weird way he cocks his head. And the FBI finally came out and confirmed it. In an official statement, they basically said, to help us keep the phone lines open for real, actionable leads, please only send in serious, detailed, and fact-based information. Translation: no more sending thoughts and prayers, or my pet psychic's theories, and for the love of all that is holy. The tip line is not for sending personal messages to the Guthrie family. No well wishes, no case theories. Let that sink in. The FBI isn't asking the public to shut up, it's asking the public to smarten up. They're switching from a fire hose of 40,000 calls from literally anyone to trying to hear that one. Quiet phone call from the right person. The one person who genuinely knows something. Because the feds now know exactly who they're looking for. And what they need isn't another theory, or a gut feeling, or a hunch. It's a face. A specific face, behind a specific ski mask, caught on that doorbell camera on February 1st footage that the FBI's tech nerds have been dissecting frame by painstaking frame. And here's what the investigators have confirmed about that face. The eyebrows. You can see them through the eye holes of the mask. And they are distinct, their shape, their thickness, their arch. They are not generic, they are specific. Forensic guys took a peek and confirmed that a black mustache is totally visible right where the mask doesn't quite cover his mouth. His build is pretty average, somewhere between 5'9" and 5'10", not super tall. Not short either, but it's the specific way this dude carries himself that sets him apart. A former senior FBI profiler, Mary Ellen Uhl, pegged him as experienced and calm, which just adds another layer to the whole picture. And get this, a pinky ring. Yeah, you can actually see a ring through his heavy-duty gloves in at least one of the photos. Sheriff Nano pointed it out himself, saying, "I see it, I see it." He also noticed the holster, which isn't your standard-issue law enforcement type. It's a unique setup, positioned in an odd way that suggests some kind of special training, or at least a very particular personal preference. Former FBI agent Jennifer Coffender bundled all these details into one big declaration that's now the focus of the FBI's new push for tips. She was basically like, this guy is super identifiable. The eyebrows, the mustache, his whole getup, the pinky ring he's rocking. The number one lead they're hoping for is someone stepping up and finally putting a name to that face. They are absolutely certain that somebody out there knows exactly who this guy is. Right now, somewhere in America, maybe in Tucson, maybe somewhere else in Arizona, or even in a completely different state, there's a person who knows the face behind that mask. It could be a girlfriend who's seen that mustache up close and personal, a brother who grew up looking at those distinct eyebrows, or a coworker who's noticed that weird pinky ring 100 times. It could be a friend who recognizes that uniquely calm way he walks into a room, and that person still hasn't made the call. The FBI's new campaign for tips isn't for the 40,000 randoms, it's designed to reach that one specific person. So now, let's break down the single smartest public play in this entire investigation. And it came from Savannah Guthrie herself, after putting up the family's $1 million reward. Savannah did something that was way more powerful than just throwing money at the problem. She posted a video on Instagram showing, in perfect detail, exactly how to leave an anonymous tip with the FBI. Then she dropped a caption so perfect, the FBI's own PR team couldn't have done it better. She wrote, "Please be the one that brings her home. Tips can be anonymous. Reward can be paid in cash." I'll say it again. Tips can be anonymous. The reward can be paid in cash. Those two sentences might just be the most critical words Savannah Guthrie has uttered during this whole thing, because they cut right to the heart of why the one person who knows everything has stayed silent. Law enforcement sources have openly confirmed to several outlets that there's a real worry about people being hesitant to call the FBI on such a high-profile case. The people who might have information are scared. They're afraid that calling the FBI tip line for a case plastered all over national television means their name is going to end up on some list. They're worried their identity will get out. They think that coming forward in a kidnapping case with 50,000 tips and non-stop news coverage will paint a target on their back. That fear is totally valid, and it's being used as the main excuse not to pick up the phone. But what Savannah's Instagram post did, a move that was coordinated with FBI guidance, according to several sources, was systematically tear down that wall of fear, brick by brick. Anonymous means you never have to give your name. Cash means you don't have to sign a single thing or show up anywhere that connects you to the case. NBC News correspondent Liz Croce even confirmed the exact logistics of how the cash reward would be handled. A person with a qualifying tip can arrange to meet law enforcement at a neutral spot and won't even be asked to show identification. A neutral location. No ID, no courthouse, no police station, no cameras, just a simple meeting. Some anonymous cash, and Nancy Guthrie gets to come home. The FBI's new tip strategy isn't about getting more tips. It's about bulldozing every single obstacle that stands between the one person who knows and the phone call that will change everything. And this is where the investigation suddenly veers in a direction that most people haven't even wrapped their heads around yet. The Google Trends data. Fox News Digital managed to review and publish some Google Trends records that seem to point to something wild, something that, if verified by the FBI's digital forensic team, completely rewrites the timeline of this entire case. Between June 21st and 28th of 2025, a whole 7 months before Nancy Guthrie was even taken, someone in Arizona searched for Nancy Guthrie's home address in the Catalina foothills. It all began 7 months earlier. Someone used Google image search not once, but twice, to scout the property's address, basically getting a digital layout of the home. The first time was between March 1st and 8th, 2025. The second was between November 30th and December 1st, 2025. And they looked it up yet again on January 11th, 2026. January 11th, funny enough, that's the very same day the FBI started asking neighbors for their doorbell camera footage. On that exact date, a neighbor by the name of Aldine Meister, a woman who had been living in the Catalina foothills for close to 30 years, noticed a sketchy-looking guy near the house, peeking from her bathroom window. She saw him with his hat pulled low, creeping along and just staring at the street. That was the same day law enforcement would later flag as one of only 2 crucial surveillance dates in the entire investigation. Then, just weeks before the abduction, sometime between December 13th and 20th of 2025, somebody in Tucson searched for Savannah Guthrie's salary. Not Nancy Guthrie, not a thing about the house. They wanted to know Savannah Guthrie's annual income. So, why would anyone who is looking up an 84-year-old woman's address in Arizona also be curious about how much her celebrity daughter makes? Come on. There's really only one logical conclusion investigators are working with: target selection. For months before the kidnapping, someone was busy building a profile, figuring out if the target was worth the risk, calculating the financial payout, and locking down the location. In December, they were checking Savannah Guthrie's salary to gauge the family's wealth. On January 11th, they checked Nancy Guthrie's address again, then followed it up with an in-person visit to the neighborhood to case the joint. By January 31st, the last night Nancy was ever seen, a suspicious car was spotted on Via Entrada near her home around 10 in the morning. Then, on February 1st at 1:47 a.m., her camera suddenly went offline. This was no crime of passion. This was a meticulously planned operation where someone invested 9 months doing research before they even thought about putting on a mask. Of course, Google was very careful with its public statement, telling newsrooms that their trends data is really meant for massive data sets and sometimes just throws in random noise for rare searches. It's an important disclaimer. The data isn't hard proof that those specific searches ever happened. But here's the part that really matters when it comes to finding a lead. The FBI's digital forensics team doesn't bother with Google Trends. They get their hands on the actual raw search data through subpoenas and other legal hoops. They use the exact same channels that let them recover the supposedly deleted doorbell camera footage from back-end servers. If those searches actually happened, the FBI is already well aware of it. And the question of who was doing the searching isn't just some abstract theory. It's a solid data point that comes with an IP address, a unique device ID, and a location that they can absolutely trace. Now, let's pivot to the other avalanche of data the FBI is furiously digging through: 10,000 hours of video. And yes, an FBI official specifically confirmed that number. The investigation has collected a staggering 10,000 hours of video from cameras all over the Catalina foothills neighborhood. 10,000 hours. If a single analyst were to watch that footage nonstop, without sleeping, without even a bathroom break, it would take them more than 13 months just to see it all once. But that's not how the Bureau operates. They have entire teams. They have sophisticated enhancement software. They use AI-powered systems to automatically flag certain things, like specific types of vehicles, people who fit a certain physical profile, or any unusual movement at particular times. And in all that footage, they are laser-focused on one thing, the vehicle. Some footage obtained by Fox News Digital captures a car driving about 2.5 miles from Nancy Guthrie's residence at around 2:36 in the morning on February 1st, which falls squarely within the suspected time of the abduction. That clip is now in the hands of investigators, being scrutinized right alongside all those other thousands of hours of video. Sheriff Nanos was brutally honest about the massive task ahead. He said they're not just looking at that one vehicle, but also at the hundreds of thousands of other cars that were out driving at that time. Hundreds of thousands of vehicles. But this is where former FBI agent Jennifer Coffender offered a critical piece of insight. That neighborhood isn't a place you just pass through. If you wind up there, it's because you were heading there. Retired FBI agent Steve Moore, who pops up on CNN, broke down the cop logic, explaining that the area's isolation is the key. He figures that by now, they've probably got a master list of every car registered to every person who lives there. From there, the game becomes spot the tourist. You're hunting for any vehicle that doesn't belong, specifically ones that showed up in the last month. And then you start playing connect the dots with all that data. You're cross-referencing all the out-of-place cars that were spotted in the final hours. Digging through that 10,000-hour video archive from the days before February 1st, and especially on the night itself. That car from the Fox News footage, it might already be on their radar. In fact, the police chief basically confirmed they're sitting on information they haven't made public yet. So, let's dive into what everyone calls the one-tip theory, because every single expert who's really sunk their teeth into this case has come to the exact same conclusion about how it'll all come crashing down. Retired FBI Special Agent Greg Rogers just laid it out flat. He told Parade, "Sadly, the best chance this case gets solved is if someone calls it in. And that's not just wishful thinking. Cops have cracked tons of cases based on tips that came in after a reward was posted. A lot of the time, all it takes is for one partner in crime to get annoyed or decide they want out of the whole mess. Just one person wanting out. The math on keeping a conspiracy quiet gets real ugly, real fast. The longer this whole thing drags on without a resolution, the more the people who know something become a liability to each other. The pressure just keeps building, until normal life becomes impossible for anyone carrying the secret of what went down with Nancy Guthrie. I mean, just imagine what that person is dealing with. That face, they recognize that face. Every morning, they turn on the news and see the eyebrows and mustache of a guy they know. Every single time they hear 1-800 call FBI, they get that pit in their stomach. And now, there's $1.2 million on the table. Former FBI agent Maureen Unell said, "If there's more than one person involved in this, and I'm sure there is, they're basically stuck in an air fryer right now, and it's just a waiting game to see who's going to jump out first. And that air fryer is only getting hotter." Jennifer Coffender pretty much laid out a perfect profile of the exact person the FBI is trying to lure in with this new reward money. She told Newsweek, "In my opinion, the number one way this case gets solved is if somebody who knows him personally comes forward. You know, a girlfriend who gets furious at him, or a family member who suddenly finds their moral compass, or just really wants that $1.2 million. And decides that betraying their loved one is totally worth it. A girlfriend, a family member, maybe a roommate or someone who shares a past with the person who was on Nancy Guthrie's porch. It's someone who has seen that mustache in real life, who knows about the pinky ring, who's heard the name, someone who's probably noticed something's been off since February 1st, like a weird change in his behavior, an absence he can't explain, a sudden windfall of cash, or a new kind of anxiety that just wasn't there before. That person is out there, and the FBI's new Highly focused tip strategy, anonymous cash. No ID required. A very specific request instead of a vague plea for help is engineered precisely to get their attention. There's another angle to the FBI's new playbook that explains why this case could suddenly break wide open. The whole investigation has pivoted from going wide to going deep. For the first few weeks, the FBI was in Hoover mode, sucking up everything from everyone, every camera, every neighbor's story, every single memory. They had to keep every possibility open because they knew absolutely nothing. Well, that phase is over. The new task force for Pima County Sheriff's detectives and a sergeant working. Full-time out of the FBI's Tucson office with the federal agents, they know what they're looking for now. They're not just reviewing everything. They are reviewing very specific things. This was confirmed by Sergeant Aaron Cross of the Pima County Deputies Organization. He said that before. It felt like almost every single detective in the entire Pima County Sheriff's Office was working the Nancy Guthrie case, and that just wasn't a long-term solution. So, they're finally putting together the elite, main quest-only squad for the Nancy Guthrie mission. That's right, 100% focus. No more getting distracted by 40 other boring side quests. And they're not subbing players in and out like randoms in a dungeon queue. This is the A-team. Locked in. This is the kind of formation you use when you have the final boss on your radar. You might not have their name yet, but the leads are so tight. The forensic sketch is in high def, and the digital breadcrumbs form such a straight line that a small, dedicated team can chase it without any pop-up ads getting in the way. They even brought in Andrew Bringwell, who's basically a retired S-class hunter working as a consultant now, and he spilled the tea on what this endgame phase actually looks like. He says there are multiple squads, each tackling a different mechanic of the boss fight. You've even got your rogue class agents meeting up with shady info brokers to squeeze out every last piece of intel. So, when the investigators start saying they're getting closer and dropping terms like hot leads, it basically means they've finished grinding on low-level mobs, sifting through random tips and are now zeroing in on the actual quest objective. They're using their ultimate skills, digital tracing and forensic analysis. They've moved past the sorting chapter and are now in the narrowing the target arc. Verification, digital tracing, forensic analysis. Those three moves are the sign that you're in the final approach to the boss room. And get this, the stats for this quest are absolutely bonkers right now. The FBI has 10,000 hours of video footage that's being analyzed by both AI and human teams at the same time. They're running a genetic genealogy hack, using the mixed DNA from the crime scene to literally build a family tree around whoever left their character data in Nancy Guthrie's house. Even Walmart, the super merchant of the realm, has coughed up the complete purchase history for every Ozark Trail Hiker pack sold in months. And if our villain bought that backpack with any kind of traceable currency, those records lead straight to their player name. They're cross-referencing cell tower logs from the entire Catalina foothills zone on the nights of January 11th and February 1st against any device that pinged the server on both dates, a little hint they got from Google Trends data. And forget what's public. The FBI's digital forensics team has admin access to the real, underlying search records, the bad guy's physical description, which they've sharpened up using forensic video enhancement, is now so specific that multiple veteran players have said that someone watching this story unfold already knows exactly who it is. And now, layered on top of all this high-tech boss-finding architecture, they've launched a new tip strategy that's aimed at one specific person. The one person who knows the face, knows the name, and knows where he was the night of that big February 1st event. The person who's been nervously watching the patch notes every morning, feeling the immense pressure of the secret they're holding. And who, for a $1.2 million cash prize at a neutral drop zone with no ID required and full anonymous protection, is being given every possible reason to just pick up the freaking phone. Sheriff Chris Nano, the Guildmaster, put it with a simple clarity that's defined this whole quest. He basically said, "We're pretty sure someone out there knows who did this. We need that person to call. Just one person. Not 40,000 well-wishers. Not 50,000 fan theorists on the forums. One person who knows the secret." And the FBI's new focus honed, targeted, cutting through all the noise to ping that single person is the most precise public message this whole investigation has ever sent. This isn't a sign of desperation, folks. It's a sign of absolute clarity. The FBI knows what quest item it needs. It knows who has it. And now it's asking for it in the most direct, user-friendly, and impossible-to-ignore way possible. Be the one who brings the story to its conclusion. So, listen up. If you know anything, and I mean anything, about the Nancy Guthrie investigation, anything about the masked man, the eyebrows, the mustache, the tacky pinky ring, a car that was in that neighborhood, or a person whose behavior stats went haywire after February 1st, call 1-800. Call the FBI right now. You can be completely anonymous. You don't need to show your player ID. The reward can be paid out in cash. $1.2 million is just sitting there waiting for you. Tips can also be sent in at tips.fbi.gov or by calling the Puma County Sheriff via the Crime Archive. Go ahead and subscribe to this channel. Annihilate the notification bell. Turn on all notifications, because this case is not going cold. It's just getting focused for the final showdown. All right, enough with the filler. Let's get to the cases that actually matter. Gemini Danai. In the shadows of every mystery, there is often a wall of silence built on fear. The search for Nancy Guthrie is more than just a high-profile investigation. It is a profound plea for human courage. We often believe it takes a miracle to solve a crime, but the reality is simpler. It only takes one person to do the right thing. +3. Justice is not merely a product of 10,000 hours of video or high-tech forensics. It lives within the person who decides that truth is more valuable than their own apprehension. Imagine the heavy burden of knowing a secret, recognizing the specific arch of a brow, a black mustache, or a unique pinky ring yet remaining silent while a family waits in agony. +4. With a $1.2 million cash reward and a guarantee of total anonymity, every barrier to the truth has been systematically dismantled. Do not be a mere spectator in this story. If you recognize that walk or that face, understand that your voice is the only key to Nancy's return. In a world of 40,000 theories, be the one clear fact that changes everything. +4s.